So, Miss Lisa, as I brought these pictures up, please God, I'll put them back in the right places. Help me remember that. Huh? Oh, well, we can please him. So, how many of you grew up with this picture of Jesus? Raise your hand. How many of you grew up with this picture of Jesus? Raise your hand. So, when you look at these pictures of Jesus, for your whole life, you know, if you turn around, there's one hanging up in the back. You can see it up there. What do you notice when you look at these pictures of Jesus? Pardon? An angel? Okay. What else do you... Oh, up there? Okay. Looks like an angel, but it's actually raising Peter out. It's the storm when Jesus walks on the water and Peter tries and he slips in. You're welcome. It's what ministers are for, to help with those things. Serenity. Nobility. Stylized. Okay. In what way? Caucasian. Have you ever spent any time thinking about the fact that the Jesus we have been shown all of our lives is a Caucasian? And so, the question is, was Jesus a Caucasian? No. What was Jesus? Little louder. He's a Jew. He's an Aramaic Jew. Did you ever wonder why, if you would have seen a Jesus like this all of your life, would you have had a different experience of Jesus? Some people call this the laughing Jesus. Some people call it surfer Jesus. Some people call it hippie Jesus. But this is a different image of Jesus than those are, isn't it? What if you would have grown up with this image of Jesus? Do you see, we didn't grow up with this kind of a Jesus, did we? And it's not so much what picture of Jesus is shown, but at least in this particular Jesus, there's a possibility that this man was actually Jewish when you look at him. He doesn't have blonde hair. He doesn't have blue eyes. His skin isn't white as snow. So this is, and you know, the only thing I have to say about this one is I'm not absolutely positive that in that era Jesus would have had perfect white teeth either. But anyway, so Judy and I last Monday, now would be the perfect time to put that particular, the second one, really. We went last Monday night over to Xavier University to the Intercommunity Justice and Peace Center's presentation on human rights. The actual topic was, let me see if I can find the actual topic. There's a 3-year series on ethics, religion, and society, and their series is on justice, tolerance, and diversity. And their purpose is to debate the meanings of justice, tolerance, and diversity as well as their relationship to each other. And the particular speaker on last Monday night was Dr. Susanna Heschel. She's the Eli Black Professor of Jewish Studies at Dartmouth College. And the particular thing that she was talking about was the Aryan Jesus. So, how many of you have an immediate connection to the Aryan Jesus? What does that mean to you? Go ahead, tell me. And what's an Aryan, in case anyone doesn't know?
Aryans are people that lived up in the Himalaya mountains, particularly. Depending on some of the ancient philosophers held that those particular people were particularly gifted with their ability to contact the divine.
Okay, that may be the highest, most esoteric definition of Aryan. Does someone have one that's more relevant to the 20th century?
I thought the Aryan nation were the white middle class, but the white race, pure white.
And who represented that white race perfectly? White Germanic people. Okay, now some of us are of white Germanic heritage. This is not intended to bash anyone who has that heritage. I don't think any of you ever confused me with a black person, but still. So, the Aryan Jesus is a construct that was deliberately created by the German national state. And it was taught in their theological seminaries. It actually included, according to Dr. Heschel and her research in Germany, removing the Old Testament, the Hebrew Bible, from the Bible because it was Jewish. How do we create other? We create other by making them different than ourselves. We create other by saying they aren't human. They went so far as to change Paul's epistles. Why would they have changed the writings of Paul? Think of Paul's journey on the road to Damascus. What was he doing before he became Paul? He was a Jew persecuting early Christians. Think about what you might have been taught of as Jews, as the killers of Jesus. How do you take one of us and turn us into someone who would join the SS, who would be willing to kill Jews in a massive, destructive way? How can that happen? By the systematic dehumanization of anyone that we call other. So you might say, why is Doris talking about this today? Because the real question becomes, who is your other? Who do I create as other? Who does our society today create as other? Could it be Muslims? Could it be Latinos? We know they're pretty skilled at treating African Americans as other. We know they're pretty skilled at treating gays and lesbians as other, even though that's now changing. What changes it is when people stand up and say, no, we aren't going to allow that anymore. But the real question is, if you would have lived in Germany in 1930 or in the 20s when all of this was taking place, who would you have been? It's really easy to say that you would not have become a Nazi. You would not have joined the SS. But if you were subject to the teachings and the pressures of society, if you were raised with believing that someone else isn't like you, they're barely human. Anytime we make someone other, we're on the road to what could potentially turn into a Holocaust. We know that Holocausts are happening around the world this very moment. In the Middle East. So it's in every one of us. And the important part is to acknowledge our own shadow, our own possibility. If any of you like to read novels, like to read fiction, I don't know if you would know Jodi Picoult. She has a relatively new book called The Storyteller. And in that book, she's presenting the life of a young man who turns into not just a Nazi, but into an SS officer who is in charge of killing Jews as mass production. And you start out with him as a young boy, no different than our young boys right here, who was picked on, who was discriminated against, who wasn't as smart as his brother, and his talent was strength. And it was when Hitler Youth was coming into being, and he got rewarded by his family, his friends, his peers, his teachers, his schoolmates for being like this. He turns into a commandant at Auschwitz. We also have the story of a young girl whose father is a baker, Jewish, Polish, Jewish, and you have her story growing up and how she absolutely got used to watching people shot, how being shot in the heart was better than being shot in the head because your brains explode all over. She's in Auschwitz. Her best friend is shot in the head and she has to clean it up. How do you learn to live with that? You become acclimated a little bit of a time. You all know the story of how to kill a frog, how to boil a frog. You put them in cold water and raise the temperature just a little bit. And by degrees, you've cooked a frog. If you tried to put a frog in hot water, it would jump out. See, the question is, as it always is in Unity, because we're about practical Christianity, who are we turning into other? Who is it easy for you to make fun of? Who is it easy for me to feel just slightly superior to? You see, that's our shadow. That's a part of each and every one of us. And the interesting part about Jodi Picoult's story is the German SS officer and the survivor girl, of only one of all of her family, both end up living in a small town in New Hampshire. And the German woman's granddaughter becomes friends with the German, of course not knowing who he is. And he wants to be forgiven. How do you forgive? And it turns out he was in the office when that then 18-year-old girl's best friend was shot. He's the one who gave the command to clean up that mess. Okay, so 60 years later, do you forgive him because he wants to be forgiven? See, it's not all hypothetical. Who can't you forgive? Who do you make as other? Because if we somehow make that level of I guess I'll use the word evil, because evil comes from humanity, not from the devil. So if you look at that level of evil, can you forgive that? Particularly when it's not just a hypothetical question. Particularly if you're the person who had to clean your best friend's brains off of the floor, off of the walls. There aren't simple answers. And the truth is, that's what unity offers us. We don't offer you simple answers, but we offer you an opportunity to look inside yourself, for me to look inside myself and say, who can I get talked into demonizing, to turning into other? We have two clergymen, both Lutherans, in Germany during the 30s and the 40s. We have William Grunman, who was removing all Jewish content from the Bible. And we have Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who was hanged for supporting the Jews. It's easy to think that we would stand up and support someone. Would we really be willing to die to do that? If we aren't willing to die for that, are we willing to stand against discrimination? Are we willing to stand against making anyone else other? When we look at our own shadow, we really look at it with the intention of lovingly allowing ourselves to have whatever thoughts we have, but to know that they're a story we've made up. Yep, we have a whole set of facts. But how we interpret those facts is our story. And we can either come from this place of love, primarily just to love yourself first. You're the one who has to live with all of this garbage that's part of our world. But we also have an opportunity to be the people who pick up the garbage, who change the way we live our lives. What circumstance could turn you into an SS officer? Because if any one of us can be turned into an SS officer. The truth is, all of us could be turned into one. If we would have been raised in a particular way, in a particular environment, if we believed that Jesus himself was Aryan, they had an elaborate story for proving he was really Germanic. The interesting thing is these pictures still hang in the churches and in people's houses. The texts that Grundmann wrote are still taught from. He didn't die until 1976. He remained a theologian in Germany. He traveled all over Europe, and he taught theology. He dropped the word Aryan, but he didn't change what he said. And so look at all the people in Europe, all of the people in the United States who've read and been trained by theology that supports an Aryan Jesus, who never says Jesus was Jewish. How do we change our own shadow? By acknowledging it exists. By simply acknowledging, yeah, you know, there are some people that I just would rather not sit down by. And then looking at that thought and saying, do I really want to think it? Do I really not want to sit down with a Muslim? With a Latino? If you were out west, it would be with an Indian. They're pretty low in the totem pole out west. Who's your other? And how can you turn that other? How can I turn that other into someone that I love? So I invite you to breathe as we move into the stillness.
In the stillness of this moment, there is peace, there is peace. In the stillness of this moment, there is peace, there is peace. And I rest and trust and breathe and know that in the stillness of this moment, there is peace.
Taking a deep breath, letting it out. Breathing again. Hearing again the birds sing outside the window. The soft music. Feel the experience of letting go, releasing, being filled with peace. Knowing all the while that every individual on this planet, everyone, can also be filled with peace, can also be filled with love and joy. And as we find that experience within ourselves, as we share it, we make the world a better place. We contribute to being the love to honoring diversity, to acknowledging the right of every individual to the experience of peace and love and joy and abundance. And as any individual comes to your mind, simply send them a blessing. Send them energy. Send them light and love, so that their experience in the world is one that is filled with love and acceptance. So that they don't have to turn into a bully to prove their worth. So they can be acknowledged for their gifts, their talents, so that they can be admired just for who they are. And in that loving admiration, they can grow into individuals that blossom and become wonderful, supporting parts of our world. We send love to all the places that are in this very moment experiencing chaos and war, to the people who in this moment are being shot, blown up, to the women who are being raped, to the men who are being violated. Our hearts are big enough to send love and peace and joy to the entire world. And when we notice those things unlike love and peace and joy in ourselves, we step back and turn that love on that part of ourselves. We love ourselves first. We hold ourselves as precious objects, beautiful, intricately designed beings of the divine. We know that every thought we think's a prayer, so we stop and notice, am I praying for what I want in this world? Or should I choose a different thought? And we are filled with gratitude, admiration, love for all of those who have stood, who have died, for truth and beauty and justice. So we simply pause in the stillness and notice what we're praying for in this moment, in this stillness. Dietrich Bonhoeffer was hanged by the Nazis 23 days before the war ended in Europe. Some Jews were the last to be killed. Some German soldier was the last one shot. Some American soldier was the last one shot. The opportunity we all have is how to pick up the pieces of unspeakable chaos, unspeakable destruction, and knit those pieces back together into a whole. Turn them back into a world in which truth and beauty are our focus. That's our charge. That's our opportunity. And for this opportunity, this precious experience of being the ones who can create the world we want to live in, we simply say thank you. Thank you, God. And so it is. Amen. Please join in singing in the stillness.
In the stillness of this moment, there is peace, there is peace. In the stillness of this moment, there is peace, there is peace. And I rest and trust and breathe and know that in the stillness of this moment, there is peace. In the stillness of this moment, I feel love, I feel love. In the stillness of this moment, I feel love, I feel love. And I rest and trust and breathe and know that in the stillness of this moment, I feel love. In the stillness of this moment, I am peace, I am peace. In the stillness of this moment, I am peace, I am peace. And I rest and trust and breathe and know that in the stillness of this moment, I am peace, I am love. I am peace, I am love, I am peace.